Welcome to episode number 11 of Recruiter Fuel. In last week's episode, we started this discussion around leading your hiring manager and the importance of pre-framing the actual discussion you have with your hiring manager. We're going to continue that in that actual dialogue and how you lead your manager as the recruiting professional. And we're going to look at the 3 C's of leading your manager, which is this idea of consult, communicate, and coach. And this week, we're going to take the first one, this idea of consulting, which is really an ambiguous term that people think is all kinds of things that it's not. And we're going to break it down to the practical. And the 3 things we're going to look at under this idea of consulting is number 1, clarify. Number 2, question. And number 3, provide counsel. So it's clarify, question, and counsel. And let's see how this plays out. That initial discussion you have with your hiring manager, the number 1 important piece is to clarify in your mind and in the mind of the hiring manager what's important. A real simple way to do that is when they list out the 9 or 10 requirements for that job, having them actually rank those in front of you in order of preference, clarifying the real need. Because that allows you now to go to step number 2, which is this idea of question. So if one of those 9 items that the hiring manager really needs is 10 years of experience in this particular candidate, asking the question not about how important is 10 years, but ultimately what have they learned in those 10 years? Because the reality of it is years of experience does not equal a skill. And then we're going to finalize the conversation with this idea of providing counsel. So before you leave that discussion, laying out your strategy of where you're going to go to look for this candidate, what's the communication between you and the hiring manager. And that will lead us into next week's session where we'll focus on communication and coaching. And coaching is by far the hardest part. See you next week.